This is the World Organic News for the week ending 24th of September 2018. John Moore reporting. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. Quick note to let you know I'm co-hosting a new podcast that hits the feed on the 15th of each month. It's called Permaculture Plus and it's with my good friend Rich Bowden. There's a link in these show notes to the website and to the Apple Podcast page. I urge you all to have a listen and let us know what you think. Thank you. This week I'm focusing on the food system through two posts. The first from the ABC in Australia entitled Strawberry Needle Contamination Sparks Federal Investigation, and one from Quartz entitled Cargill Issues a Ground Beef Recall After E. coli Kills One and Sickens 17. The first post refers to a situation in Australia. Sewing needles and pins have been found in punnets of fresh strawberries. Inside the strawberries. This is, as you can imagine, a serious matter. It appears to be the work of a disgruntled ex-employee, but no one knows really. There have been no demands made and no group has claimed responsibility. We can, I think, rule out militant animals' rights activists. These are, after all, fruits. From the ABC post, quote, As the strawberry contamination scandal spreads across the country, the fallout for the industry continues, with Health Minister Greg Hunt ordering a federal investigation into the matter. At least 7 brands of strawberry are now caught up in the scandal, including Donnybrook Berries, Loveberry, Delightful Strawberries, Oasis Brands, Berry Obsession, Berrylicious, and Mel's Black Label Strawberries. In the latest case, Tasmanian police are investigating after reports on social media of a needle being found in a punnet of strawberries bought at a Hobart supermarket at Rosny Park, end quote. This highlights the nature of the food system in the industrialised world. All of the contaminated fruits have been discovered in items purchased through supermarkets. Huge numbers of berries are grown, packed and sent to these supermarkets. The supply chain follows the seasons. So the Queensland growers tend to be first into the market, along with West Australian growers. From there, the harvest travels south to New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. Huge amounts of fruit are being dumped or fed to cattle. Growers have had their contracts terminated by the major retailers. This is in no way to make a living. At the whim of companies notorious for screwing suppliers of all goods, they are especially hard on farmers. They introduced the $1 a litre milk price for consumers that's killing off many dairy operations during the current drought. So an unexpected event, the current one is this needles and pins contamination, but it could just have easily have been poison, and the entire industry screeches to a halt. Some growers are opening their farms to consumers directly and allowing them to pick their own fruit. This is actually a financial benefit to the growers, but not to their picking staff. No one really wins out of this sort of situation. We await developments in the police investigations, but like the current dairy situation, some producers will be bankrupted. So we have a situation where huge amounts of fruit travel across a continent to reach people who then purchase them. The situation leaves itself open to the sorts of acts that have led to this current situation. It is worth considering that the longer the supply chain, the more opportunities for sabotage. Now to the second post, E. coli and ground beef in the US. These sorts of events happen so often they rarely make the news, except in the local areas where they occur. Yet one person is dead and others ill. If the strawberry supply chain in Australia is an extended one, the ground beef situation in the States is just mental. A single hamburger patty can contain flesh from up to 1,000 beasts. Usually it is around 100, but let's think about this, the manner in which the beef is produced in the US and where the E. coli comes from. So most commercially produced ground beef in the US is sourced from CAFOs, that is, confined animal feeding operations, better known as feedlots. I had spoken before about these vile operations. Cattle are fed a grain ration in these facilities. This means corn. Cattle are ruminants and they have 4 stomachs. They eat grass and herbs. They sit in the rumen and ferment. They are then regurgitated and the animal re-chews them. This is the chewing the cud stage. From here, the feed moves through the other stomachs and out the exit. The system has evolved for the consumption of grasses and herbs, not for the consumption of grains. Indeed, it has been suggested that it is as well that cattle are ready for slaughter after 6 months on corn, because any longer on a grain ration and they become ill and therefore unsaleable. Large numbers of cattle are fed into slaughterhouses, come out the other end as steaks, offal and ground beef, etc. The nature of these slaughterhouses is such that E. coli could easily become introduced into the food system. Now, E. coli is a pathogen from solid waste, poo to put it bluntly. If the meat is cooked to a sufficient temperature, the E. coli is destroyed when it is there in small amounts. Clearly this didn't occur in this case. Either that or the meat wasn't kept cool enough and the E. coli multiplied in the meat. Either way, the long supply chains allows for these things to occur. The further the meat travels, the greater the possibility of it not being kept food safe. Similar to the strawberry situation, a long supply chain invites contamination. E. coli would suggest a breakdown in standards. The needles and pins suggest malicious aforethought. The solution to these problems? Well, clearly a shorter supply line would be a good start. If we know the person providing our food, cultural norms kick in. Rather than an employee who may or may not have food safety as a high priority, the face-to-face relationship ensures that this is more likely. The individuals who are helping out the strawberry producers by buying directly from them are meeting the person growing their food. In these situations, an individual producer cannot feed contaminated food to massive numbers of people and stay in business and out of jail. Even better, we can grow more of our food ourselves. Now, it is unlikely we can grow our own beef, for most of us, but equally most of us can grow strawberries or lettuce or even radishes. Beef, lamb and pork can be purchased through farmers' markets from the growers. These meats are more expensive and so may mean less meat, but meat that has been humanely raised by owners who care about their stock, not some bored wage slave who has more invested in the next paycheck than they have in animal welfare. I'm not saying everyone involved in a CAFO has this attitude. I'm saying the possibility of that mindset is more likely in a factory setting than on a family farm. We, all of us, myself included, need to think carefully about where we obtain our food. And on that note, I'll draw this episode to a conclusion. Remember, decarbonise the air and recarbonise the soil. Now, as a podcast listener, you may be thinking about producing your own podcast, but you're not sure where to begin. Drop over to mrjohnmoore.com and pick up the free checklists I've written to help get you started. I've also been doing live presentations and putting them up as podcasts under the show name Pod Thoughts to help you through the process. Link in the show notes and details at the website mrjohnmoore.com. A transcript of this episode is available at worldorganicnews.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.